Karen A. Daley. By action of Curry College, the Board of Trustees concurring, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Regents of Higher Education of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, and admit you to all the rights and privileges thereunto pertaining. Congratulations, Dr. Daley. Ladies and gentlemen, graduates of the class of 2017, you're in for an honor and a treat. Dr. Daley, the commencement address.
Thank you, President Quigley, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty, distinguished guests, proud parents, family and friends, and most of all, graduates of the class of 2017. I'm very honored to be here on such a special occasion, and to the class of 2017, congratulations. More than anyone else, this day is about you. For me, this commencement also represents a very special honor. To be here as a Curry alum and commencement speaker on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the nursing program at the college, and to celebrate the launch of the college's first school, the Curry College School of Nursing. I spent a lot of time deciding what I wanted to say to you all today. Going through that process brought me back to memories of my own graduation from my first collegiate program here at Curry. I thought about how excited I was that day and how I couldn't remember one thing our commencement speaker said. I think there's a lesson in that, and I think that lesson is to keep my message to you today short and simple. So as I considered what I might say to you this morning, my thoughts turned to some of what I've learned since I first left college, and perhaps a bit of what I wish I had known at the time of my own commencement. So I will spend the time I have with you sharing 3 life lessons that, looking back, have really mattered in my own life. But before I share my life lessons, let me begin by offering a few additional remarks about today's commencement. Your education here at Curry has been a gift from your parents, your teachers, and graduates who have traveled this path before you. But you've done the hard work that brought you to this point. Be proud of yourselves as you leave here today to take on the world. And know that it's just the beginning. You have many experiences ahead of you on life's path. You have so much to discover about yourself and about the courage it takes to live a life that both challenges you and brings you joy and fulfillment. That brings me to my first life lesson. Get to know who you are as a person and seek to become someone who is authentic, someone you like and respect, someone who lives a life with integrity. I can tell you it's a tall order, and more often than not, a lifelong process. Becoming is part of life's work. It's taken me years to mature in my own life and to get to know who I was as a person, and then who I wanted to become. And I'm not done yet. I'm not talking about coming to know who I was in my roles as a nurse. That was shaped by my education and professional experiences. In fact, knowing who I was as a nurse always seemed easier for me because I knew what knowledge and competencies I needed to master to excel in my professional life, along with the ethical values that I needed to uphold as a member of the nursing profession. A more difficult journey for me was learning what drove me as an individual, what my essence was as a human being. The harder thing for me was peeling away the extraneous layers that I brought with me into my adult life, the things other people and experiences had placed there, and that in some cases were preventing me from becoming the person I really wanted to be. Stripping away any false facade and getting to your core, learning your true uniqueness and value, and even owning your own shortcomings. That's what makes it possible for you to genuinely accept and respect yourself and to give that same gift to others. It also helps you weather the moments when life gets tough. Work to become the person you want to be. I grew up as one of 7 children in a middle-class Catholic family, raised by 2 parents who did the very best they could, but who struggled with difficult circumstances and baggage from their own upbringings. Both turned to alcohol to ease their pain. Thankfully, both found sobriety while most of my brothers and sisters were still in the house. But the impact of those difficult and chaotic years found its way into each of our lives. Its imprint on my early years was to make me a fixer and a caretaker, someone who always tried to make things better for those around me, a peacemaker in the midst of chaos, someone who did everything I could to please my parents so they would be proud and not so angry or emotionally detached so much of the time. My family home life had, in fact, made me a perfect candidate for the nursing profession. It wasn't until I entered my 30s that I realized I had some work to do to rid myself of baggage that I had brought from that past into my adulthood. With a willingness and a desire to become someone I wanted to be, I began a process of looking inward and taking steps to change. What I learned in that process of stripping things bare was that becoming the person I wanted to be was within my own control. I controlled my attitudes, my sense of self-worth, and the choices I was making in my life, particularly the choice I often made to care for others without first caring for myself. All of those things were making it impossible for me to become the person I wanted to be. It was only when I began to get honest with myself that I was able to begin a process of healing and becoming a more authentic person who could learn to care for and about others in a more healthy and balanced way. I also firmly believe that once you learn who you are and who you want to become, along with what you want for your own life, there will always be people along the way willing to help you get there. The next lesson I'd like to share is about courage. Don't be afraid to take risks in your life. Don't let fear of failure get in your way. In healthcare, we talk about the need to fail fast. So you recognize failure and quickly course correct to move beyond it. In everyday life, we try to avoid failure. We judge ourselves when it happens. The truth is, experiencing failure is a normal part of life, and I would even say it's one of the ways we learn best as human beings. Failure makes you wiser and stronger. Most of all, it takes you further along that journey of self-discovery and closer to becoming the best and most successful person possible. The most important thing is to be open to new and enriching life experiences and to be willing to risk both failure and success. That's where you find the most wonderful possibilities in life. The next story I'll share with you relates to a more recent time in my life. President Quigley told you that part of my career included 4 years serving as the elected president of the American Nurses Association. What you don't know is that at the time I was considering a run for ANA president, the thought of assuming such an awesome responsibility especially at such a critical juncture in healthcare, just months after passage of the Affordable Care Act, was pretty scary for me. Unlike many of my predecessors, becoming the national president of the oldest and most respected professional nursing organization in the country was never something that I had personally aspired to in my career. In fact, the decision I ultimately made to run for ANA president resulted largely from the urging of members in my own organization. Fortunately for me, over the years, I've learned to listen to those who saw something in me that I couldn't always see in myself at the time. Still, it was pretty intimidating to think about leading the largest professional nursing organization representing the interests of more than 3 million US registered nurses. What I couldn't know during those many anxious moments I experienced in the course of my campaign, when I had the overwhelming feeling of being an imposter who was way over my head, was that my 4 years as ANA president would challenge me as the hardest and the best job I could have imagined for myself. I couldn't possibly understand in those moments just how rewarding that journey would be, or that it would afford me such incredible opportunities and experiences as a nurse leader that I would never have otherwise have had. Looking back today, I'm so glad I took that risk. That brings me to my final life lesson: the importance of finding meaning and purpose in your life. I believe there is no more satisfying way to live life than in the service of others. I imagine that philosophy has been ingrained in you as part of your education here at Curry. I've been fortunate to be part of a profession like nursing with service at its heart, but there are many ways in life to serve others. The fact that I'm standing here today as your commencement speaker would likely not have happened except for one of the most life-changing events I've ever experienced that happened to me about 18 years ago and that President Quigley referred to. That was a needle stick that infected me with HIV and hepatitis C. That injury occurred at a time when I was totally healthy and at my most successful in my professional career. That injury and its consequences forced me to leave clinical practice long before I believe I would have made that decision for myself. It also set me on a path of advocacy and self-discovery that took me beyond a potentially life-threatening illness to finding greater purpose and meaning for what was, on its surface, a cruel and unfair fate. One that totally disrupted not only my physical health, but also removed me from work that I loved and excelled at as a nurse caring for individuals and their families. My journey from patient to advocate began with my efforts to see beyond my own life circumstances. Once my health and my medical therapy stabilized in the months following my diagnosis, my thoughts turned to how preventable my injury was and to doing what I could to prevent other healthcare workers from experiencing what I was going through. Over the next year, I worked with other nurse leaders, policymakers, and stakeholders to explore and pursue political, legislative, and regulatory remedies at state and federal levels to help eliminate injuries like my own. Among other things, that effort culminated in Congress passing legislation in 2000 that mandated the use of safer devices in the workplace, which in the years since has led to a significant decline in needle stick injuries across the US and beyond. My work to improve patient and worker safety that began more than 18 years ago with a life-changing needle stick remains to this day a passion and source of great meaning in my life. So my final message to you is that whenever life takes an unexpected turn like it did in mine, when life seems at times to become so unfair and beyond your control, understand that that is the nature of life. It is how you deal with those difficult times that matters most and reveals the most about who you are as a person. Finding meaning and purpose during difficult times will help sustain you. We know that life's storms will pass, even though you might not be able to appreciate it at the time. As we are able to step back and view difficult circumstances from a different perspective, they can and do bring a greater appreciation and meaning to our lives. In the words of the great British philosopher, Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find. Nice. So to the class of 2017, you have a future and destiny ahead that is yours to shape. Become your own hero. Live your life with a sense of authenticity, passion, courage, and purpose. Those will be the things that define and sustain you in your life as you leave here today to follow your dreams. Thank you for the honor you've given me to be with you here today, and congratulations.
What do you say, huh?